Hello, welcome to my show. My name's Patrick. I thought it was going to be a nice day, but the clouds moved in. I tried to make a video today a few times, and something's been plaguing everything. So this is my fourth time, and I'll try to be succinct. But we're going through pretty big changes, and I'll just douse a few of them. About Turkey invading Syria and Libya, you can see it's already starting to be a quagmire for Turkey, and we predicted that about a month ago that it's not a good move, and they think they're going to poke the Russian bear, and Russia hit back hard. You know, the only peaceful for settlement for Syria is really a unified government that bring the Shiites and the Sunnis together and the Kurds, but I don't know if that's going to happen. That's the only peace, and when we have peace, we can bring all the refugees from Syria back to Syria in Europe and elsewhere. That has to happen, and it's a very dangerous situation because NATO, you know, Turkey is a NATO ally, but the Europeans and I think America has told Turkey this does not constitute an attack on a NATO member when Turkey is the aggressor. And when I douse it, it says Turkey is the aggressor. When you have to rate it, they're 95% the aggressor, and everybody else is standing down, including the Syrians and the Russians. And we're there too in the oil field. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here. Russia has troops in Armenia, and Armenia does not like the Russian troops in Armenia, but they know they have to have them there to keep Turkey in check, you know, on the northern. So Russia knows Turkey is they deal with it, they have trade, but they're not going to take a lot of guff from Turkey. Okay, and then the virus, the same thing I said a few weeks ago. It's mild. That's what I get in my dowsing, all right? And I do get a racial component that blacks and whites are resistant to this particular strain. This particular virus is made for Chinese in particular. It sounds gross, but that's why they're getting sick, and it's more contagious over there. Well, just hope it doesn't spread in the United States. It doesn't look like it. You know, one person catching the virus is like, so what? It's not a big deal. The other flus are like almost as strong. And, you know, if you're these other races, you're an African American or European stock, you're going to be resistant to this particular because it is a bioweapon of sorts. It has a particular function, and this could be just a test to see how the virus spreads throughout the world. There's all sorts of draconian reasons why it's not what it appears. I always get it was a mistake, it was an accident, but I know there's a lot of other theories. All right, and in the election, I still get for the last couple of years, I don't even know. And I still said, I don't know if there'll be an election or maybe it'll be delayed. So when I look at, let's go take a look at that. I have it. I'm going to go douse quickly. I don't know if you can see it. Show me probability of an election. 45%. All right, 45%. So what does that tell me? It doesn't mean there won't be an election. It tells me there's issues. In 2016, we had, you know, 95% at this time an election. That's what it would say. And the conventions would be 95%, you know, these conventions would be held. Right now I'm getting, okay, we got the national election, let's call it 50%. The Democratic one in Milwaukee is 25%, and the Republican is 50%. So this is telling me there's an issue that's going to arise between now and these events, and we don't see it yet. They could just have everybody mail in their votes, or they can do it by email. I don't know what the problem is. It's not going to be this coronavirus. It could be something else. And back over into the Middle East, don't forget there was the Iranian leadership got struck with this virus, and I'm getting it's not the same virus, and it could be the weapon theirs is weaponized against Persians, and it's like an espionage type event, and the Iranians may figure this out. So it's a dangerous situation when they figure out it's not the same virus, and they shouldn't be having too many problems. The other one, so I don't know. So the virus, I'm not going to say anything about beyond what I said. I always got it. It's very weak, and the racial component is pretty typical of these biochemical warfare laboratories they have. They make these viruses specifically for a race or a sub-race, like Germans or in this case Chinese. So the Chinese are very susceptible to this, and we'll see what happens. I think if you're a European stock or if African America, especially African Americans, they're the most resistant to this particular strain. So some people may get it, but I don't think it should be dangerous. There's so much going on. I think the Democratic primary, I don't get a reading on anyone. I still get Biden at 50%, okay? There's a third person off stage, and they get 75%. And I see people are making guesses who it is and what it is, but that's Bloomberg, one of his jobs. He's there to split up the convention. Well, if the convention is not going to be in Milwaukee and everybody's going to be in a hotel room spread across the country, that's going to be easy to get the third party in there. And especially if it's something happens and we have to, a convention is the last thing we need. Who would you give it to? I don't get anyone really. Sanders doesn't get it, never had him getting it. And that mayor from South Bend, Indiana, Buttigieg, you won't believe it, but that guy was born a woman. That's who I think he is. I think that's a tranny. And they're doing this all the time to us. And the person waiting in the wings is, I think it's Michelle Obama. That's who I get. I don't get it. It's Hillary. And Michelle Obama is, I believe, was born a man as well. And Obama was gay. That's why they got rid of Joan Rivers. Remember Joan Rivers in that video? Before she died, 30 days after she spoke on camera, she's walking into a building. A video guy went up to her and asked her a question saying, when do you think we'll get the first gay president? And she goes, oh, come on already. We already have a gay president. And she goes, what? And the guy goes, what? And she said, grow up already. Obama's gay, and Michelle Obama is a tranny. And he goes, what? That's crazy. And he goes, oh, come on. Everybody knows this. And then she was dead in 30 days. She went and had that throat surgery. And is it a coincidence? Well, it doesn't look like it. She probably wasn't supposed to say that. But the tranny thing is really big. And we spoke about it about 6 months ago, that it's going to become bigger and bigger when the public realizes politicians, CEOs, producers, and actors, and I get half the top 20 actors from the movies last year were trannies. They're playing, they're because as a celebrity, they're playing a role, So, for example, I get, let me think. Okay. I don't get Brad Pitt as a tranny. He's a man, all right? And he marries Aniston, right? Remember Jennifer Aniston? And I get she's a tranny. That's a guy, all right? So Brad Pitt, he's dating a guy. This is going on everywhere. The whole The whole thing has been a lie. And it's really important metaphysically to rule you through black magic with these lies. As Aleister Crowley says, well, you flip everything upside down. What's black is white and white is black. And this is how you rule people. This is how you rule. And we have been ruled and basically taken over, mostly in the last 30 years, but to varying degrees. So we're coming up on the world stage. I just want to reflect again on I'm kind of jumping around because I call this going in flow, and I'm just kind of seeing the ideas that come into my head. I don't write them down per se. And in this way, the higher heavens will determine what is important. Know that the people running for office, including President Trump, they're all sick. Everybody is pretty sick. Trump got more sick. He's in the critical condition, but they're all walking around waving and stuff. I get Bernie Sanders very sick, and Joe Biden's very sick, and Buttigieg, he is he's weird. He's a young guy, but he's not in great health. He's not in the positive territory, but he's not really negative. I don't know if he does something. I don't know, but he's not in great health for his age. And so yesterday, Joe Biden won, and, you know, he's 50% chance of getting the nomination. That's what I get. And we'll see if somebody on the sideline comes in. Now, this could be, so the event, so we're going to have some difficulty here. That's what it's saying. Between now and even summer, late summer, are these conventions. Here I got this. I want to have, will the election issues, is it politically related to Sanders? What is his followers? What is the probability? I don't think so. It looks low. Are Sanders people going to leave the Democratic Party? How many of the Sanders backers will not vote Democrat? What percent? Go. So this is if the election takes place. You know, a lot. Maybe 40-45% I'm kind of getting here. And so that's interesting. I don't know. It's interesting. Trump came with that. He signed a peace deal in Afghanistan. They barely talk about it. When they signed the Vietnam peace deal, everybody talked about it. It was great. And like, no one is talking about the Afghan peace deal. So they're not going to give Trump credit for anything. They blamed him for the coronavirus. I don't know how. He went over to China and released the virus from the laboratory that made it. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. So all they have done is discredit them. The media has totally 100% discredited, and they had to do that. They felt they had to go to the mat. Winner take all. That's what this is right now. Winner take all. And so that's in the election. I don't get Michelle Obama ever being president. Let's just go see, you know, the country is what is the probability Michelle Obama will ever be president? What is the probability Michelle Obama will be president? She's like 5% chance. She'll never be president. Okay? And Hillary, I don't think she'll be president. And as you know, I said the real Hillary has been dead. These are actors playing these roles, and they have voice modulators, and they got all sorts of things. Now, a friend of mine, associate, had a dream the other night where Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, the CEO, he was assassinated by someone in a big crowd publicly. He went up there and shot him several times. And Zuckerberg falls down, rolls over, and everybody's looking, and they can see he's a robot. And that's interesting because a robot is a little bit, it's different than a clone, and it's different than a double. So he has a robot, and I asked if let's go ask, is Zuckerberg alive? Is he alive? Yeah, 99%, he's alive. So he uses this double. It's a robot, and it goes out in public, and it does these functions, and he uses it 80% of the time. That's what I doubt. 80% of the time you see Zuckerberg, 8 out of 10 will be the robot. And everybody's going to wake up when they see that. They don't know that is occurring. And then I asked for Elon Musk, does he have a robot and double? And they said, yes, he does. And it's used about 10% of the time. So Elon Musk is, most of the time when you see him, it's actually him. And he is just a front man. He's a straw man. He works for this black hand that owns Facebook. And we saw that this software for Facebook was developed by the CIA, and on the same day they discontinued the program, they started up Facebook. They're all like that. All the technology is controlled against your freedom. Your freedom. They want to cut you off from your higher self and your communication with the highest dimensions. That's what they want you to do. Thought came. The Boy Scouts are in bankruptcy. This is about as Americana and apple pie as you can get. So the ADL and all these organizations forced the Boy Scouts to have gay scoutmasters. Now, this is not about scoutmasters. This is not about gays. This is about priority of the education of these kids. That's what it is. Do we give them priority over gays? Yes, we do, but not now. So, obviously, you got hundreds and hundreds and thousands of gays. I don't know how many that are scoutmasters, and they seduce these young boys, and they traumatized the boys, and they had lawsuits, and the scouts lost, right? The Boy Scouts of America lost these. They have all these litigation to pay for because they lost most of those cases. And you got to ask, why did the ADL do this? This was planned. This was planned to bankrupt the Boy Scouts. So how are these kids going to have access to, fishing and swimming in lakes and hiking in the mountains and going camping and connecting with the land? If you don't connect with the land when you're a kid, you're not going to be able to connect to spirit, to God, to Christ consciousness. You're not going to be able to do it. This pulls your soul into your body 100%. It's not floating out there like anyway, I'll skip that one. So the premise here is, to fix this, we have to ask, who is the priority here? When we have, so the ADL is the enemy of America. The ADL's job is to connect you off. And it's like the Southern Poverty Law Center attacking everything that has the word Christ associated, like the mangers, or what do you call them? The nativity scenes. So they sue these little towns. They don't have any money. They're forced to take them down. And then last Christmas was probably, there are no Christmas lights anywhere. There are no Christmas lights anywhere in a lot of towns. You wouldn't even know it was an event, because the new God is atheism. We got to take everything down and be miserable and sit in front of TV and watch, reruns of something like Satanic MASH, which is like a Luciferian, another piece of garbage TV show that just shows Lucifer believing in nothing. They don't offer any solution. They don't have any connection. And the priest in that, just to say it, he's like weak. He doesn't believe anything. He's meek. And priest, you're not meek really. You're humble. You're humble, and you try to get a connection. And I think that's the future. The more the spiritual teachers will have a connection with the land, like you're supposed to be, and with spirit and with your higher self. So everything basically they're doing has disconnected you from your higher self. All modern life, the technology, even the computer screen you're watching, the iPhone, it's just all this radiation is going at you, and you get like tired, and you just, I can't do it for like an hour and a half, and I get really tired. And it's just the radiation coming off the screens, and the radiation coming off your cell phones. We're going to get 5G. Many people have mentioned Well, let's douse it that the 5G network, it started in that Chinese city where the virus started, because it weakened everybody's immune system. Is the 5G in that city responsible for the virus exploding? Yeah, 80%. I don't know if you can see it. 80%. 80%. It weakened everybody. And 5G is just like, it's a microwave oven on steroids. You're just walking around in a town and you're going to flop over. And it's making people vulnerable. And since they had this virus being released, everybody got it. That's why it spread so fast. And luckily we don't have 5G yet, but it's going to be our issue of the future. And can we make it safely? Well, right now, probably not. Who is that? Oh, those are the ravens. I better go down to the barn and see what those guys are doing. I have a chicken that got whacked by the bobcat. You know, I did pretty good. I went through a whole year without losing in him, and then I let my guard down, just like life. And the bobcat got in there. He's anyway. So that's where we are. There's much more. The depth and the breadth of what's going on is just truly amazing. I think we're gonna, in the future, we're gonna more find out and see the quality of our leaders. You're gonna be able to visibly see it yourself and check in at your solar plex and in your heart chakra, who's standing in front of you, what is their intention. And that's probably the name of the game, is intention here. What are their plans for the country? And as I showed last week, Trump's intention for the country is really good, but he's got a lot of crocodiles around him in his own office. I don't know why he picked a lot of these people, but they're not on America's side. But he has them there, and so you just hope he can wade his way through. He seems to be looked at because everything, Nancy Pelosi tears up the speech behind him. Well, that was a ceremony. She did a ceremony behind him, and it had no impact at all. It made her look small, very small. And hundreds of millions of people saw that around the world. And people are just saying, Trump shows up in India, and there's 110,000 people in a stadium because they appreciate what he's doing. Even the illiterate man in the street sees what Trump did. He shows up, he goes forward, and he goes, well, that's a definition of masculinity. No matter what is being attacked, you go forth. You go forth. You can only be humble and honest and do what you think is right. And, that's a miracle to get away with that in this world, because they don't want you to do that. All right. Let's see. I had some other things. You already know who I think is going to be the next president. And we'll see. I don't know how that's going to play out, because, if you don't get a convention in Milwaukee, then that means something pretty big is coming down the road. As for the currency, I do see we're like 30% into the reset. I said that and it's not a one-day affair. I see it as a 2-year affair, and we're about 30% through it. And the other thing I bring up, I did this about a year ago. I doused that our gold reserves are huge, and I haven't seen any accurate figures, let's say, compared to my figures, which I doused. So I have a number. It's way more than China and Russia combined, and India. They're not up into our league of gold we have. I don't know where it is. I don't know how they're counting it, but we have a huge supply of gold. We can have a currency easily, just gold alone or a mixed basket. And I think they're trying to do that with the help of other countries. They're trying to come up with some mechanism that will be fair to everyone and fair to the American worker. Most of this is people who are for the American worker, for the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and our covenant with God. I'll leave on that covenant with God thing, because there's this confusion. The left uses it to attack, like the Harvard law review said, well, we don't need this government anymore. We should do something different. And this is pushed by the atheists to have a technocratic government and no more elections. And this is the Harvard Law Review. And, as soon as we shut down Harvard, the better. We have to cut off the money, and we have to throw these people out of the government. They shouldn't be working there. To write a piece of filth like that, to take away my rights and your rights to freedom of expression, we got to get rid of them. I don't care what their score in the SAT scores. They have a low score with God and divine light. And that's the one that matters. And if they're going to attack our form of government, especially the Bill of Rights, and our relationship, because when you read the Mayflower Covenant, it's very simple. They're just saying, well, we're here out in the wilderness. We were going to Virginia, but now we're here and wherever we are. And so we have to have a document where we all relate to each other. And then in this document, we recognize God. And they say, we're here, and we're going to do everything with God in mind, and we're going to have one man, one vote. All right? And that's it. That's our relationship right now. And whatever you think the term God means, this definition. When I douse it, can you see it? When you douse, okay, show me 0, show me God, please. Show me. It goes all the way up to 10. Now, you know what 10 is? 10 goes to another chart. It says, Patrick, when you hit 10, go to the next chart. And then I hit 10, go to the next chart. It's so small. Words and people that are over 10 are very rare, all right? So 99% is going to be 1 through 10. And then when it tells me to go to 10, I have to go find, let's say for Christ or Buddha. Well, they're 2 charts away. I mean, their light is so bright that you don't have to wear shades. That came to me. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. And I do think avatar people are going to show up. They may not necessarily be Christ lights. They're going to be spiritual people, and they're going to show people the way, in a way, what's going on. And we're going to make our way through the next basically 7 years. And a lot of this is front-loaded, but I wanted to say, don't forget your pantry of 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks worth of food. I went through mine, and I have some cans that are 20 years old. And but I can eat it. I doused them. They're all minimum. And those number 10 cans, they last a long time, but they're lousy. Their food is pretty crummy. But you're there to survive. Wheat, you can make bread out of. I have cans of wheat. And what I do there is I know that you go into the secondhand stores and they sell bread machines. Sometimes they're brand new and they're like $5, $10. I get them for $5, and I let the bread machine knead it because I don't like kneading bread. But you throw it in there, it kneads it for 30 minutes, take it out, put it in the bread pan, and put flour around the bread. So first, roll it around, put flour around it, and stick it in the bread pan, and then you put like a cloth, a kitchen cloth over it. And if you leave it like that, it shouldn't stick to the top of the cloth. And I put the flour on the cloth too. And when you have flour on that, it won't stick. If you don't do that, it's going to stick and it's going to mess and your bread will collapse. But you can make it really fast, really good. And these bread machines, they're cheap if you go buy them in the secondhand store. And sometimes they're just, people don't use them because they take up a lot of counter space. And that is a really useful tool. And you can really crank out the bread. I do have another one. If I lose power, I can make bread by just cranking it. They have these things, you just crank it. And that'll, essence, knead the bread. You're trying to get the gluten to... and gluten is not bad for most people, all right? Gluten-free that's just a marketing nothing, all right? Some people are sensitive. 99% of the people are fine, It's your own. You have to figure out whether you're allergic to gluten. And it's not bad for you. Wheat is not bad for you. It's not good for you either. It's sort of a neutral, but I have wheat. I've had it for 20, 25 years. And it'll germinate. Half of it, I douse it. Half will germinate. And I can eat it. You know, it's going to lose some of its vitality. But I don't have to think about it. You know, that's the beauty of wheat. It's sugar and protein that goes into your gut, and you can operate in a time of emergency. You don't have to worry about it. That's the thing about wheat. And then, of course, oats are the best, you know, of the grains for humans. It's a health food. And what else are we doing? We probably won't have olive oil. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I'm just trying to go with where we're going here. The economy is really in a stickler situation. They're still doing repos. They stopped it for a while, but they had to start it up again because the system was seizing up. And it's all about liquidity. And then you got to ask, why is there a liquidity problem? Well, they're not going to tell you. But the real reason, it's the same reason there was a liquidity problem before the Great Depression. And that was, so the stock market crashed in 29, and they started tightening up and it was M3. We don't have M3 anymore. We used to have M3, and that was a liquidity measuring tool in checking accounts and cash. It's just things that were liquid. And so we got rid of that because it was telling you too much information. So we have that situation now, and there are people who measure it. We still have M1, and they're using that, but it's a very difficult times for small businesses and medium size. Where are you going to get the cash to keep your doors open, you know? And where are you going to make your payroll? How are you going to do it? If you don't have cash, you used to have access pretty quickly. So that's a liquidity issue. And this is being done on purpose by Blumenfeld's group. You know, those people, they're trying to tighten up the economy so it'll look bad for Trump. In particular, the stock market, you know, the Dow going down, it's all artificial. The coronavirus is kind of artificial. I mean, it's there's components that are real, but they're taking advantage of it, and they want to blame Trump because Trump took credit for the stock market. So they say, okay, you can own it, and they put some concrete shoes on him and threw him. But he's going to prevail on this issue as well. It never turns out, have you noticed, against him. I gotta go. Think about your food. I was gonna make a map of the USA, you know, how much food you should have on hand. And most of the country, I said 2 to 3 weeks. And in the West Coast isn't all bad. It's hit and miss. It depends where you are. You know, like San Diego's is okay. It's kind of funny, you know, place with a nice sunshine. I get like, we'll have 2.5, 3 weeks, you know, and I go up to San Francisco. I forget what San Francisco was. Let's take, how much do you need for San Francisco, please? Could you give me, so I've got my dowsing run, and let's go, give me San Francisco you should have in your pantry. You should have 5 to 6 weeks. Could you show me Portland? And then Portland has how many? I don't know. Portland's like 9 or 10. So that kind of gives you a feel. It's different up and down the West Coast. And things like, I think the Deep South is pretty high. And things like Kansas, as I told you before, it's going to do, you know, compared to everybody else, they'll do well. And Kansas is flat and the wind's going through like all the time. I was talking to some people from Kansas, and they're just telling me it goes 18 miles an hour all day long, the wind. And you got to put up wind breaks, but it's going to have food. It's, you know, low population. And I think that's the key. And for some reason, you know, geography-wise. And there's other spots in the country geography-wise. Now, in the long run, so I think we're going to have this, you can use the word biblical. Let me see. Let's see. Is this tribulation coming up the next 7 years? Yeah, it says I can use that word. 100%. All right, I wasn't going to do that, but that's probably the next 7. So about 3 years ago, I did this, and I could see as we come up to 1992 and not 19, 2000, 2022. So we're 2020, and the demonic rulership of this country in the world is at 61%. And last summer we're at 63, 64, so it's going down slowly. But I expect we're going to hit some kind of speed bump, and it's going to take a big drop. And this is pretty much why, for whatever reasons, the demons are losing and they're retreating. And I think their time is up. You know, and everybody has different words for it, you know. But whatever it is, we're going to go through a time. Once we get through this really difficult stuff, we're gonna have a time of awakening that is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. But we have to get through these few years, and I think that's enough for now. Thank you very much, and I'm sure I left many things out. Don't forget to pray for your family, all right? Pray for your family. Pray for yourself. Put up shields. Do the All Father. And do the Revelation 22, Psalms 51, you know. And I don't have my mug. You know, go make the mug. You know what the mug does? My Grail cup that costs you $5 to make. And you put the All Father on it. And you put other biblical and whatever you want. Make sure it's the really high frequency. Your peripheral vision sees it, and you're hitting your subconscious mind, saying, "This is a trigger. This is important to me. That I stay connected to my higher self. That I stay connected to the highest dimensions." Every time you see the cup, even though you're not using it, you'll see it. Your subconscious sees it. And I was going to talk about more of the subliminals they're using on the humans on TV. That's why you should also keep it down to a minimum. And you know, those prayers for yourself will protect you against those symbols they use on your subconscious. And they know you so well, it's really not fair. But thank you, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.